Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Diablo 3 Build Factory. My name is Phobos, and today's topic will be the Demon Hunter and his passive skills. But before I get to that, I want to say thank you to all the guys that submitted feedback so far. It's really much appreciated. And I also wanted to clarify something. This isn't a Demon Hunter only channel. I just wanted to clarify that because some people messaged me saying stuff like, "Whoa, it's so cool that we have a Demon Hunter channel now. All the other channels are about barbarians and wizards and stuff." And yeah, this channel isn't about the Demon Hunter only as well. I will do videos about the other classes. It just so happens that the Demon Hunter is my main. It was the first character I ever played on Diablo 3. Even still in the beta, and I will do videos about other classes as well, so don't worry about that. The other thing I wanted to mention is, this series isn't meant to be like a top-down conversation. That being said, feel free to participate and also feel free to challenge my builds or my opinions. That's really fine. So let's say you have another build that you have awesome experiences with, feel free to submit them. Also feel free to submit discussion topics on Diablo 3, and also feel free to submit, well, opinions on nerfs or patches. That's also really much appreciated, and in the long run I think that this will lead to awesome results, and yeah, therefore we have something like a community interaction here. But now, let's get to the main topic. Footage in the background is from Act 1 Inferno. There's also some stuff about Act 2 Inferno, but it's mostly Act 1 in case you want to know. Okay, let's talk passive skills. And I was already asked by a few people why I separated this part from the initial video I did on survivability in Hell and Inferno mode. And I decided to do so because, in my opinion, passive skills have a whole other importance than action bar skills or the primary and the secondary skill. And what I mean by this is, you want to pick passive skills according to your action bar skills. You really want to complement them, and you really want to raise the synergy effects as much as possible. And what I really don't want you to do is to believe everything some random dude says on the internet. I know it's kind of hypocritical to say this myself, but there are a lot of people that say stuff like, "Yeah, these 3 random passive skills are the best, you have to choose them in Inferno difficulty or otherwise you will die like a fly. It's so stupid of you to not pick these skills, you suck, you idiot. Stop playing, learn to play, you idiot, you noob." Well, bullshit like that, you know. And seriously, don't give a crap about anything people like that say, because you have to pick passive skills according to your difficulty level, your skill set maybe. What's the use of picking a passive skill that you don't have any idea how to use it yet? Think about it. Plus, a few passive skills are only good with a certain equipment loadout, and if you don't have that equipment loadout, you should probably avoid the passive skill first and come back to it later maybe. So with all these arguments taken into consideration, let's look at the passive skills itself and let's decide which options are viable and which are not. Okay, let's take a look at all of these skills. We have 15 skills to choose from. But in my opinion, for Inferno mode, only 6 are viable, and these 6 are highlighted here. So let's talk about them one after another, shall we? The first skill I want to talk about is the Sharpshooter passive skill. You unlock this skill on level 50. That's pretty late into the game, but trust me, it's worth it. And the tooltip says gain 3% critical hit chance every second. This bonus is reset 1 second after you successfully critically hit. So basically, the Sharpshooter passive skill increases your critical hit chance until it peaks at 100%. And that also means that it does increase your base damage until you successfully crit an enemy. So let's take a look at the inventory screen and the damage here first. Pretty high numbers, right? And now let's take a look at the same thing but in combat. So as you can see, damage is always reset to the baseline as soon as I successfully critically hit an enemy. So in conclusion, in my opinion, the Sharpshooter passive skill with the increased critical hit chance is almost always the way to go. It's really one of the most used passive skill and obviously one of the best passive skills you can choose from. And also when you decide to go with nether tentacles, which I mentioned on the first episode, you do a really fair amount of damage. That's really amazing, because nether tentacles move extremely slow. They might critically hit a few times until they disappear. So that's why a lot of people say Sharpshooter with nether tentacles is overpowered. But they haven't nerfed it yet, and I don't think they will in the future, but they might, we never know. So that's something you have to take into consideration when forging your own playstyle. Now let's talk about the Archery passive skill, probably one of the most used passive skills, and rightfully so. The tooltip says gain a bonus based on the weapon type of your main hand weapon, and demon hunters use 3 kinds of different range weapons. That is, if you use a bow, you will receive additional 15% increased damage. If you decide to go with a crossbow, you receive a 50% critical hit damage bonus. And if you decide to go with hand crossbows, you will receive additional 10% critical hit chance. Let me get one thing off my chest first, please. If you are using hand crossbows, and you are using Sharpshooter and Archery, let me ask you one question. What the fuck is wrong with you? Seriously, I see so many people running around with both Archery and Sharpshooter and then using hand crossbows. Seriously, it's not that difficult to figure it out by yourself that it's completely redundant to do so. You already have 100% critical hit chance if you go with Sharpshooter. Why use Archery then? Change your weapon, change your second passive skill, but do something. It's completely stupid to do so, seriously. That's one case of where your equipment is pretty important on how to pick your passive skills. If you wondered why I said that in the first place earlier. But in addition to that, the skill is really useful. You do additional damage, that's never a bad thing. So the skill is worthwhile using. The next skill I want to talk about is steady aim, and this is probably one of the best skills you can choose from. The tooltip says as long as there are no enemies within 10 yards, all damage is increased by 20%. And 20%? That's pretty steep. No argument about that. It's a lot of damage you can add to your base damage. And if you want a comparison to Vault, where you jump like 35 yards, 10 yards doesn't seem that much. It really isn't. It's like 1/3 of the vault distance, and come on, that's really nothing. So steady aim, really nice skill if you want to boost your damage. If you have issues with your discipline management, maybe you should consider the next passive skill, namely Perfectionist. You unlock the skill on level 35, and the tooltip says it reduces the discipline cost of all skills by 10%. Discipline is used to fuel many of your tactical and defensive skill. Well, true that. So to be honest, I never really used this skill. I always happened to own a lot of gear with additional discipline on them, so I never felt the urge to implement that skill into my build. But if you happen to have problems with your discipline management when using smokescreen or vault or any other discipline heavy skill, maybe you should consider taking this passive skill into your build then. Now let's talk about Vengeance. It's a skill that you unlock on level 13. That's pretty early into the game. I think it's the 3rd passive skill that you unlock. And also it says on the tooltip your maximum hatred is increased by 25. In addition, gain 20 hatred and 2 discipline whenever you are healed by a health globe. So this is a really nice skill to have even in harder difficulties such as Nightmare and Hell. The only difficult thing is that you can't rely on the skill to pump up your hatred on the Inferno difficulty, for instance, because health globes become really rare the farther you get into the game. On Inferno difficulty the drop rate of health globes is like 1 health globe per champion monster. That sounds about right, and if you run out of hatred a lot, maybe you should rely on other skills than just vengeance, because you will run into serious issues if you just rely on the health globes to pump up your hatred. So last but not least, there's only one passive skill left which I would recommend and which I consider viable for Inferno difficulty, at least as of now. So this skill is called Tactical Advantage. It's unlocked on level 10, so it's the first passive skill that you actually unlock, but I rarely see demon hunters use this passive skill, and I really don't understand why, because this passive skill is actually really good. So the tooltip says whenever you use vault, smokescreen or backflip with evasive fire, you gain 60% movement speed for 2 seconds. And if we consider the recent smokescreen nerf now and take that into account, these additional 2 seconds of increased movement speed add so much to your survivability. You can see it in the footage right here, you gain so much movement speed, you can really get into an awesome position really fast. You can also outrun your enemies like crazy, it's amazing, you should really try that for yourself. And look if it adds something to your build. Now, the question of questions. Which of these skills should I choose for my build? Well, honestly, you have to decide for yourself. It depends on your playstyle, it depends on your skill, it also depends on your equipment. But to help you just a little, think about every situation you experienced in the game and which you considered most troublesome, and then think about the passive skills and in which way they could help you in these situations that you think are most troublesome to you. So let's say you don't do enough damage. Maybe you should consider using steady aim then, because steady aim increases your damage by 20% if enemies are 10 yards away, or at least 10 yards away. Or let's say your problem is survivability and you already use smokescreen, you already use skills like vault, but you still die too often. Maybe you should consider using Tactical Advantage then, because increased movement speed adds a lot of survivability, because you can outrun your enemies faster, you can close the distance to your enemies faster, and also you can, well, run away to a point where you can attack even longer. So you have to take all of these facts into consideration before choosing passive skills. It's really important that you think of your action bar skills first, and then decide which passive skill corresponds to this action bar skill and in which way. So most of you will want to hear what I use, so I might just tell you. I decided to go with Sharpshooter, Tactical Advantage for survivability, and with Archery. That's my passive skill loadout for the moment, but that might change in the future. Just depends how Blizzard decides to nerf or buff skills, and we will see about that. But whatever the case, this is it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to press the like button if you do so. And also make sure to subscribe if you want to stay up to date on more action from the Build Factory. That's also really much appreciated. And also don't forget, leave all your builds, opinions, experiences and discussion topics in the comments, so we can all have something like a community interaction here. That would be really nice. And maybe I can implement some of your questions or some of your concerns in the next video. Well, maybe not the next video, because the next video will be or will most probably be about how to gear your Demon Hunter for Inferno, because a lot of people already asked me about that, but maybe the video after that. So keep those questions or concerns or opinions coming, that's also really much appreciated. But yeah, until then, have a nice weekend and I see you soon. Goodbye.